welcome in. Today I opened the records and we're going to do a reading for the collective. So if you landed on this message, today Spirit wants to talk about the current affairs of the world and how we can relate with them in a way that demonstrates our sovereignty. So, guys, what do you want to say about this? They're saying there's a timeline split happening right now, and what that really means practically for us, because actually we're moving through billions of timelines a second, depending on how much our vibration is shifting. But they're saying that there's a co-creation that we're all projecting our own experiences kind of on top of, like an overlay. We're all having our unique experience on this like shared framework, kind of like we're all playing the same video game and interacting with one another, but we're all having our own experiences, our own levels, all that kind of stuff. But what's going on is they're saying the video game is moving into two different kind of trajectories. And that's what it means. So the players, in fact, this is a little tricky because I once had two back-to-back dreams. One was I was in the new earth, and the other one I was in the old earth. I was existing in both. But what they're saying is we do exist everywhere. Actually, all versions of ourselves are existing in all the timelines. But what you, the fractal holographic extension that you are, this character, what you're experiencing is based on your state of being. And of course, even though we're always moving through all these different realities, billions of times a second, as Bashar says, they're saying that it's about locking into one of these timelines. Like it's going to be the major thrust, and then from there will be a lot of variation along that general trajectory. They're giving me the example of like the COVID pandemic. That was like once you're locked into that timeline, that is part of your experience. I'm just asking them now, as they talk, I like ask questions, and I'm like, yeah, but what if it's part of your destiny, obviously, as well, that you jump in your state of being and you hold it for a really long time, like some kind of breakthrough experience, like Eckhart Tolle is coming to mind, people like this. Can you jump from one to the other? And they're saying the same way that we're having a continuity in our life, like, for example, the COVID pandemic, they're saying that theme will always be in that timeline. So, for example, in the New Earth timeline, they're saying there will always be the story of, oh, that was the way it was in the old Earth. But when you go to the older timeline, that will never be part of the story. Okay, so we jump around, but we jump around in a co-created space. And this is a time when that co-created space is bifurcating. That's what it is, like these tuning forks, actually. They're showing me there's two trajectories, and then you as the holographic extension are going to be bouncing along different timelines along this central track. And people who choose, and now they're saying, okay, they get it. Go talk about how you move from one to the other. Like, because this is the period, it's happening over like the next several years, they're showing me, till about 2033. It'll be like locked in. Okay, now I'm seeing 2036. So anyway, it's definitely in like the next several years, 10 years like max, where like all the like filtering kind of happens. And it's by choice, and it's about, are you on an encouraging, empowering orientation in your attitude in life? Or are you the person who is discouraging? They're saying this isn't for this collective. Anybody who lands on this message isn't like that. But just so that we can understand it, they're saying if a person is here to discourage in the collective, if their choice and their attitudes have led them along that route, and they're saying, and of course, environment and condition and all of that is part of it, they're saying then that will be their actual experience. They will move into an old earth kind of continuing paradigm. They're nudging me to explain that dream I had. So it was basically like kind of a corporate military society, and there was a lot of, it just seemed like it was like slums, and then like the 0.01%. There really wasn't any middle class. It was just very like all of the United States was very slummy. The coastlines had changed. It was very gray. The environmental condition didn't seem really great. It just seemed quite glum and dreary. It was very disempowering. It felt very system, very dysutopian. And the New Earth one was, it was kind of like smaller village cities, kind of had a New Zealand vibe, which is really beautiful. It's very beautiful, and the cities don't feel overwhelming. They feel very like pedestrian friendly, and they don't. The New Earth didn't seem to have. They're saying I just didn't see that part, but the parts I saw didn't have like big skyscrapers and things like that. They're like there certainly are urban centers that are huge and very modern actually in the New Earth, but what I visited was a little bit more bucolic. They're showing me, but they said the general vibe is what I experienced in the New Earth vibe. It was very artisan centered. Everybody had an expression or a craft that was unique, and even it was just a general vibe of merriment. There was very little taboo and judgment. There seemed to be a practical artistry, creativity, and sensibility about people, and the general vibe was quite upbeat and festive, relaxed and festive, I would say, and very visually pleasing. And the old Earth, well, I described that kind of vibe. It's like New World Order kind of Earth, very corporate, militant. It's very much order over justice, and that's the vibe. Okay, what else do you guys want to say about this? Well, they're saying bring it around to the current affairs. So the current affairs are really just kind of the backdrop of the timelines that we're in. It's always going to be a moving collage of these kinds of patterns, like quite difficult in our human landscape, right? There's always like tons of traumatic things going on. There's also a lot of great things going on, but the narrative is usually quite pessimistic. That's what we see. We see a lot of dark stuff. And they're saying the way you move through that, not spiritually bypassing, but being selective with your focus, choosing what to focus on, because that's wisdom, putting your energy where it can make a difference, and then realizing you can't carry what is not yours to carry at this time. And they've given this other example in some of my other videos, but like kind of like being an ER doctor, you understand where your energy is best well used, which is in helping who you can help. You can't spend your time letting the world and things you can't control live in your head rent free and siphon your power. It becomes disempowering, and we don't feel good. We can't meet life with the energy and attention and presence that we need to, because we're getting caught up in narratives and things that we can't control. They're saying all these things are here by design. We're not here to spiritually bypass and not care about it. We're here to care about it and do what we can where we can. And then we're here to use our focus in a way that is uplifting and energetic and allows more of source to move through us. And they're nudging me to share. They're showing me an ice cream parlor. And they're like, it's like somebody saying, I can't stand chocolate ice cream, and then just going into the parlor and that's all they talk about. They even get the ice cream they like, but then they're just back on the topic of how they don't like this chocolate ice cream. And it's just like, you can't do anything about it. It is there. You can't eradicate it from the earth. The purpose, they're saying, is because all of this is by design. It's to, fiddling with my tuning fork. They're saying it's all by design. It's to give us the opportunity to choose with our focus and to move through our conditioned patterns of thinking. This is a training program for us to slingshot into other realities. Okay, it's not just the records that are sharing this information or whoever's coming through right now. Like Seth from the Seth Material says that too. He says like this isn't something that you take lightly when you come into a physical like reality. It's a very hard dream. It's very real, and yeah, it's like watching paint dry from within, right? But the purpose is it gives you the opportunity over time and space to learn to adjust your internal calibration, to recalibrate inside so that the reality doesn't dictate the way we feel. This is from a little bit for astrologers, I have a ton of Saturn that has been in my chart kind of like making me go really slow in life. And it's like again and again, I've been like tested. I feel like it's just been a challenge, like a test paper or something, where it's like you will not get the evidence of this until you choose the state of being that is a true reflection. When you step into that state of being and hold it, then you will get it. And that's been my path. And they're saying that's because those of us who resonate with messages like this, we are here for flexible sovereignty. We're here to anchor in this kind of autonomy into the collective, that it's our choice, and the way that we alchemize timelines is through our choice of focus. And it's not, the focus is from seeing the whole thing. Okay, they're saying that's really important. It's not like, oh, we just look at positive stuff. No, we see the whole thing and we do what we can to nurture and re-educate the parts that we can, but we take the pulse, we use our discernment, we pick our battles, because we only have so much energy. Use it wisely. Use your heart, your passion, everything wisely. Be efficient. And that is power. And that moves us into the current timeline. So they're saying so much of this is actually created, co-created, to give us these choices. I feel like we're stepping into sticky territory here, but they're reminding me of when I was younger and I was in India and I had some change in my pocket and I was walking with the yogis. Okay, these are like meditators, part of this group that I used to study with when I was younger. And I'm walking with the yogis. I must have been like maybe 12 years old or something like that. I was quite young. And, you know, there was a lot of poverty, and I saw some children around, and, you know, they were begging for money. And so I took the money out of my pocket and I started giving them. And then giving what I had, you know, it was just like a few bucks. And the yogi slapped my hand and said, no, that's their karma. And my guides, or the records, they're saying, no, that child went there to move that yogi's heart so they could break through their distortions, so they could get clear, so that they would be moved. And so they're saying a lot of these things that are going on in our reality are giving us the chance to focus, to choose differently, to see things differently. I really don't think I want to talk about this, but they keep bringing to mind like what happened in Gaza and what's going on in Gaza. And they're saying, you know, really from the broadest perspective, the entity, which is, we all kind of actually stem from one, it just depends on how far back you want to go, is saying, I will send another version of myself, and when that child is harmed, maybe that will be enough. Okay, because not everything is fixed. The general trajectory is known because everything is in the spacious present, but we're experiencing the unfolding of it. And so many are coming just to move hearts. That's why we've seen also, I mean, this is what the guides say, we've seen an explosion of things like autism. So much of this drama is like orchestrated to move us, to give us something to choose from. That's why we agree actually to play protagonists, antagonists, all sorts of things. And they're saying, actually, these are other versions of yourself. So they want to get tripped out, but I love talking about this stuff and I love hearing about it. So they're saying that actually, for those of you who have seen like deity images, whether it's in Buddhism or Hinduism or something, you often see with many, 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 many hands. They're saying another way to understand many, 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 many versions of each of us. Every place that we choose differently, if it's something significant, it's like another version of ourself branches off. And the more we integrate, they're saying the less versions there are. But integration means you can see the whole scope, but then you're actively choosing your experience. And they're saying all the probable versions of myself eventually fade into the probable versions of another character. So there is no part of the great mind that is like empty. You know, if you think about this spatially, I don't know if you guys are here with me. Hold on. My camera battery was fading out there. So is there anything else you guys want to say? Because I was getting kind of trippy. They're saying you choose your experience, and the backdrop of the narrative is part of your choosing. Use your energy wisely. It is so valuable, and this is a time of sifting and sorting where we choose kind of the new backdrop that we want to work through, the new lens we want to create through. For example, they're saying this is like a timeline lock where those of us who chose to experience the COVID pandemic, now that is part of the storyline of this kind of timeline. And then they just want me to emphasize, if I didn't say that already, there are many variations of that timeline, and you create your own experience along that timeline, but they're saying there's this bifurcation happening right now. And our focus really matters. It's our superpower is choice, and how we choose to focus really matters. They're saying focus on integration and focus on that which behooves you from an integrated space. So anything else, guys? That's it. That's the message for today. If you enjoyed this channeling, please share your beautiful energy, like, subscribe, share, comment, tell me what you liked, tell me what resonated, and your takeaway. And if you're interested in coaching, readings, or visionary art, you'll find that information in the description box. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next message.